Hi there. So, the last few weeks we've really been thinking a bit about self regulation and bringing ourselves back to a balance. And this week we're actually going to think about balance. That's going to be our theme. Our body is always trying to bring us back to balance. It's called that homeostasis. So, as I mentioned previously, when we're too hot or we're too cold, the body uses mechanisms to help us come back to that balance. Now, there's growing evidence that stress, and I think we might all relate to this, physical and psychological disrupts our autonomic balance. So, our autonomic balance is just the balancing of our sympathetic, fight and flight, and our parasympathetic, that calming part of our nervous system, which meaning the systems that they regulate are disrupted, which would make sense. So, our heart rate, blood pressure, our digestion, our immunity all get out of whack because our autonomic nervous system isn't in balance and it's not regulated. Now, healthcare professionals, athletes, you might be interested and you might have heard of it's out there quite a lot, use heart rate variability as a measure of autonomic balance. So, that balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, they can see how well that balance is working by looking at your heart rate variability. Now you'll see in the picture, I find it I'm a visual learner, so you can see this is our heartbeat. Now heart rate variability is just the variation, so the difference in time between two consecutive heartbeats. So you can see all these numbers, they're all slightly different. Now we won't notice this. We'll feel our heartbeat, but we won't notice the difference between how long's in between because it's very subtle. Um, But our heart rate variability it's affected by exercise, hormones, stress, brain activity, and it's regulated by our sympathetic and our parasympathetic nervous system. And so it's a good measure of health and how well our autonomic nervous system is working. So when we're stressed, we go into our fight and flight, we're mobilized, we're ready for action, our heart rate increases, but our heart rate variability lowers. And that's it, just coping with the demand of having to get moving. And then once that fight and flight response is done, we're back to feeling safe and we're calm, going into that parasympathetic, that calming, resting nervous system. The heart rate slows down and our heart rate variability increases again, bringing us back to balance. So that's really how we want it to work. We go in and out of the different parts of our nervous system as we need to with ease. And studies have suggested, and why I'm talking about it, is that yoga is really helpful for increasing our heart rate variability and our vagal tone. So, vagal tone just tells us how well our vagus nerve is working. So, we spoke about our vagus nerve in week 2 when we were talking about extending that exhale. And that was because our vagus nerve is one of the main nerves of our parasympathetic nervous system, the calming nervous system. And you can see the little yellow line in the picture is our vagus nerve, and it starts at the base of the brain and it meanders all the way into all the different organs or connects to all the different organs, sending really significant messages from the gut, from the different organs back to the brain. So actually 80% of all those vagal fibers send messages from the body to the brain. So which means it makes sense that by working with the body, it can help us to access that parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve being the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. By accessing it through using our bodies and doing body work and breath work, it sends messages back to the brain and helps us to come into that rest and digest nervous system. Now, our vagus nerve helps to control our breathing, and we found that out in week 2, that the vagus nerve is activated by our exhale, and so by using our breath we can improve our vagal tone, and certain breathing practices help, extending our exhale being one. Why I use it in nearly all the classes that I do, there'll be points where I talk about extend your exhale, or 1 to 2 breathing, which is extending our exhale. So we're doubling our exhale to our inhale. So for example, inhale for 2 breaths, inhale for the count of 2, exhale for the count of 4. So it's really helpful for accessing our calming part of our nervous system, and working that vagus nerve. So our inhale is linked to the part of the nervous system that mobilizes energy. Our exhale is the calming us down. And if we keep those both in balance, so we keep them the same length, it would make sense to think that we're accessing both parts of our system equally, and hence we're keeping a sense of balance. So research has shown that breathing 5 to 6 breaths a minute, so that's like inhaling for 5 or 6 and exhaling for 5 and 6, is the best way for us to breathe to jointly support both aspects of the nervous system, because we're breathing in and out at an equal rate. But they've found that this specific count has like a real sweet spot, and it perfectly synchronizes the heart, the brain, and the nervous system to find this lovely balance, which makes us feel calm but also focused. And it's called coherent breathing. So it helps our heart rate variability, vagal tone, decreases stress, anxiety, and improves gut system symptoms. And there's lots of research on coherent breathing. It's really interesting. If you want to, if you Google it and see all the interesting research that has been done. And by changing the breathing, we're changing messages being sent from the respiratory system to the brain. So enabling us to access part of the brain which affect our emotion, our thought, and how we behave. There are other ways to stimulate our vagus nerve, and that can be through singing, chanting, humming. And you can see that, when choirs come together or people sing, we hear music, it can all make us feel a little bit more joyful. So we might try looking at those things later in the course. If you have any questions from this, that was lots of information, and some of it might sound a bit technical, a bit too much biology for some people. The reason I'm telling you is to really help motivate you to know that these practices work. There has been research on the practices, and they will support your body, mind, and your ability to find your breath with ease. And that's why we're doing this course. So I will see you next week, where we will explore a little bit of equal breathing with the idea that we're working up to coherent breath. Okay, see you then. Bye.